Okay, let me continue my presentation with the title on disruptive technologies. Disruptive technologies are quite similar to emerging technologies, technologies that bring changes, sweeping changes, fast changes to businesses, to industries, and to market at present. So things like what is happening to all the big players, like what is happening to Google, Alibaba, Amazon, IBM, Microsoft, all the big IT players, IT companies, or Sony, for example, yeah, where they have adopted or making MIS part of their business, or making use of MIS in transforming their business, is what we call disruptive technologies. Not only where they use PC, all these old technologies, but they are using so-called latest technologies, internet, intranet, extranet, all the latest features of online application, yeah, so-called under the category of disruptive technologies in transforming or in changing their business to the next level. That is what we call disruptive technologies, disruptive technologies. So sometimes they do call first movers and fast followers. First movers means those who are the inventors of the disruptive technologies. It can be mostly IT companies like Google or Apple or IBM and so on. And also the fast followers are firms with the size and resources to capitalize on the technology. So mostly all the big players, all the big players with high investment on IT or on MIS systems are the disruptive technology, what we call inventors or followers. In terms of organizational structure, there are 5 basic kinds of structure that we need to look into. This is quite general in any business structure. For example, the first one is what we call entrepreneur. Entrepreneur, either it is a small startup business, that's what we call entrepreneur. Machine bureaucracy, mid-sized manufacturing firm is the second kind of structure, basic structure, machine bureaucracy, which we call it small and medium scale or mid-sized manufacturing firm. Then we have this structure which is known as the divisionalized bureaucracy, which is a Fortune 500 firms. I'm very sure all of you are aware of what is Fortune 500 firms. They are known as a divisionalized bureaucracy. And then we have professional bureaucracy, which consists of law firms, school system, hospitals, and so on. They are under this category because most of the people in this kind of organizations are professionals like lawyers, educators, doctors, medical officers, and so on. And then the fifth basic kind of structure is what we call headocracy, which are more to the people where they are working in a consulting firms, consulting firm, either it is a finance or any other related industries. So these are the very high level, what we call 5 basic kinds of structure under the organizational structure that you can consider exists today in any business or industry. Other organizational features that we can also include for discussions are such as we need to look at their goals. Yeah, every organizational will have their goals, so we can look at their goals, objective, constituencies, leadership styles. Yeah, different company, different organization might have a different leadership style. Tasks, yeah, the basically it's going back to uh, responsibilities, whether it is a routine kind of procedures or ad hoc basis kind of procedures or business processes involved within the organization. So it's very much depending on the nature of the business, and also again depending on surrounding environments, meaning not only the company itself but who they interact with. For example, I did mention in any company there will be an interaction between the organization with the outsiders such as vendors, customers, suppliers, and so on, right? So we also need look into surrounding environment. Just give me a minute, let me check the meeting if there is anyone asking for anything. Okay, so far no message, no chat, so let me continue with that. My screen is still being shared. In terms of economic impact on how information system impact organization and business firms, IT changes relative cost of capital and the cost of information. Yeah, so like what we discussed last week, the investment on IT by any organization at present is increasing year on year basis compared to 5 or 10 years ago, due to the demand or needs or requirements, requirements of the business. So the cost of capital and the cost of informations, I will say they are very much depending, and of course the cost of investment in IT by any organization is going or is increasing. It's increasing, and as many understood, information system technology is a factor of production. So it become like capital and labor. Those days we can say that you can even consider as an option or less important in terms of investing onto IT, but today it's not an option anymore. Yeah, it is like a capital and labor that you got to have, or you must do the investment in survive in order to survive, in order to sustain your business for a longer period. IT also affect the cost and quality of information and changes economic of information. So as we have seen earlier, the relationship between MIS and the organization, they are depending very much on each other, closely related. So the investment on IT definitely, which is a cost for the company, definitely will affect the quality of information, and also it changes the economic of information, right? The higher the investment, of course we can have a better system, better output, better turnaround, better trained people, and so on. But not necessarily, sometimes it depends on factors. Things can happen the other way around, but in general, the higher the investment, definitely we are looking forward, or we are planning for better output. Yeah, better output, better result, better automation, better trained people in terms of skills and knowledge and in order to gain better experience. Yeah, so that's the whole idea. Information technology helps firms contract in size because it can reduce transaction costs over the long term. Over the long term, or when you average it out, uh, of course, the investment in IT is like one-time investment, but the return, especially when it comes to automation, definitely it will be better. So, in other words, the investment on IT helps firms in reducing the transaction cost. It's like when you produce 5 products or 100 products, of course, the investment is the same, but when you make 100 products, the transaction cost can be much more lower compared to if you just make 5 products. So that's where planning and everything else comes in into the picture, so that you can increase the number of transaction with reduced costs. Yeah, and another option that many companies that they are looking at now is also what we call outsourcing. Yeah? Outsourcing. uh, Trend is changing, the trend is changing, not like those days where most of the companies will have the IT department as part of the organization. Today the trend is changing. Many companies, uh, where their core business or their nature of business is not IT, they prefer to outsource the IT department or the IT organization instead of owning it, or instead of having it, as part of their organizational structure. The reason that there are many reasons. One of the reason is, uh, sometimes, due to the huge investment on IT by having internal staff, sending them for training, because the technologies are changing very frequently, so you need to send them for frequent trainings. They need to keep up to date, so the cost can be quite high. So due to that, what they do, they just outsource the entire IT operation, and they just pay to these third party companies, or these two outsource companies, as long as they have, or they, in return, they do all the uh, requirements or needs for the company, and the company just pay them, pay them for the services, or for the output, or any automation work that being carried out by the IT companies. That is also another trend, but of course it is a different topic that we are not going to talk here. We might cover that in under other topics, but yeah, it's not part of this chapter. So with that, if you guys have any question, please stop me, otherwise I'm going to continue. Transaction costs, like what we discussed earlier. Of course, we want to have the lowest cost if possible. We call that firms seek to economize on costs of participating in market. That is what we call transaction cost. Definitely all firms are interested in producing the output, maximize the output with the lowest cost. And that is where IT lowers market transaction cost for the company, making it worthwhile for firms or for the company to transact with other firms, rather than grow the number of employees. So this is what I just mentioned to you guys earlier. The company now have a choice. Either they can have the entire IT department internally, or they can also outsource, or they can reduce the number of IT people and still maintain the department within the organization. So there are many options available in making it happen. Whether to have an internal MIS system within the organization, or outsource, or having a smaller team and outsource some of the services or jobs to third party. That is also another option that many companies are considering today. What is in the next slide is the transaction cost theory of IT on the organization. So what we understand from the chart is, as the firm size increases, of course the transaction cost will go higher, right? But with the make use of IT in a very productive way, by automating many processes and steps and procedures, this transaction cost can be brought down, as what we discussed earlier. Our objective is to reduce the cost, the transaction cost. That is the whole objective. So as we understood, we want to maximize the production with the lowest cost as possible. In the next slide, what we're going to look at is what we call agency theory. Firm is nexus of contract among self-interested parties, which requiring supervision. So the supervisors, the line managers, the managers with certain experience, they need to manage and supervise the what we call agency costs. Agency cost, the cost of doing business, or in other words, also indirectly, it is actually the transaction or transaction processing costs, which rise as firm grows, like what you saw in the chart earlier. As the firm grows in size, in terms of employees, in terms of production, and so on, definitely the costs also will go higher. So these line managers, operational managers, need to manage and supervise the cost as well. And also they need to think of how IT can be used, MIS system can be used to reduce this agency costs. So that is the whole idea. That is the whole idea. So here what you see is same firm size against the agency cost. Similar to firm size against the transaction cost. Next, what we're going to see is organizational and behavioral impact. How IT has organizational and behavioral impact. As you can see in this slide, it is written here that IT flatten organization. How IT does that, or how IT makes that happen. When it comes to the decision-making process, IT enables or helps to push to the lower levels, fewer managers are needed instead of big group of team, because IT enable faster decision, and with that the team or the managers can have better control. In other words, when all your processes or all your process and steps and activities are automated, where there is a less or minor intervention from the people, definitely things will be will be better, easier to manage, easier to control. With that, doesn't require much decision or ad hoc decision by the managers or by the employees. So things will be better and productivity will go up, and in other words, revenue will be better. So that's how IT flattened the organization. And with IT becoming more important and critical into any organization, at the same time what you are seeing is the number of employees or people have been cut or reduced into a smaller group or numbers. In post-industrial organization, the same thing is happening, where less people are involved, most of the processes are being automated, especially in the manufacturing. uh, in the traditional way, conventional way, we see many operators are being engaged or hired, yeah, in order to carry out the jobs. But today, what is happening? All the operators or these uh, line people, line workers, have been replaced by robots and machines or by automated processes. So what is happening is, of course, the one-time investment or the cost, IT costs increase at one point of time, but over long term or over long period of time, uh, you see a better production, better output, better quality in terms of product or services, and at the same time, all these peoples will be replaced by machines or robot. So this is what mentioned by the earlier slide. In a traditional hierarchical organization where you see many levels of people or levels of management, but in today's new organization, modern organization, they call flattened organization, where you see lesser level, lesser people, but they can make better decision, faster decision, and maybe more productive, and in terms of profitability and in terms of sustainability are definitely better compared to the traditional uh, organization. So that is what is happening today. Yeah, that is what is happening today. And this is the impact of IT or MIS system, which all of us are aware, familiar with. It is not the things to be scared of or to be afraid of. Reason, just to share with all of you guys, at the same time, what the MIS uh, industry or the MIS has created is a lot more new jobs, a lot more new skills are required. So all these people who were there in the traditional organization, what they need to go through is they need to retrain themselves or reskill themselves in order to learn the new skill so that they can move on into the new areas with the new job that IT has created. In every industry, yeah, even in hospitals or in any kind of businesses, you will see there are a lot of new jobs today. For example, data entry clerk. Even though those days it is quite rare, but now it become very common. Data scientists, data analytic, programmers, all kind of programmers with new programming languages, new ways of developing application, web designers, developers. So there are a lot of new jobs has been created by IT along the way when things changes like this. So it doesn't mean that IT is really flatten the organization by removing all these people, but actually IT also has created a lot of new jobs. Like for example, those days the number of mobile devices has been, it has been like very low, but look at the number of mobile devices today. So it shows that we have jobs, we have new devices to deal with, new application to deal with, new software to deal with, new hardware to build, and so on. So it has created a lot of new jobs. Okay, from the other point of view, if you look at it, so don't be afraid, don't get the wrong message. IT is actually improving, yeah, is having a huge impact on organization and business firms, not only by flattening the organization, but by giving or creating new opportunity to the people to retrain or to reskill themselves so that they can move to a new areas with a new job, better jobs, uh, in making the business or in transforming the business into a new level. That is the whole idea. That is the whole idea that MIS has created in this world today. There will be some organization which is quite common, resistant to change. We did discuss about this earlier, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. But as what we learned from the past, any organization resistant to change will be wiped out, or will be closed down. Very high risk in terms of closing down the business. Yeah, so either we change or we die. That's the whole idea. That's the whole moral of the story. Any company, we have seen many companies that they think they can survive, but they refuse to change. They are no more existing today. I don't have to name it. There are many examples that you can think of yourself. So this chart figure 93.9 basically those organizations resistant to change will be wiped out, because there is a very close relationship between technology, people, structure, and tasks. So all these four elements are very important and they are very closely related. So if, for example, the company not bringing in technology, or not going for a new technology, or not adapting to the new technology, that will have a great impact on the how they do things, how they carry out their daily routine job, business processes, and so on. And that going to impact the people, and that going to impact the structure, the organizational structure of the company. So in general, everyone will be affected, and end of the day, the organization will be affected by the resistance to change. So that's the whole idea of this chart. Okay, so I think we have many examples that we know, we don't have to name it. Many organizations fail today, reason resistant to change. Okay, just give me a minute. Let me see if the meeting is okay. No issue. All right. Let me check the chat for a while if there is any questions or anything being posted. Okay, no. Okay, let me continue with my slide. All right, what we're going to do next is the internet and the organization. Yeah, internet and organization. As we know, the internet increases the accessibility, storage, and distribution of information and knowledge for organization. So there is no organization today that have no or not using internet. Every company or organization is having their own websites, mobile apps, systems, either it is web-based or online, proprietary system, yeah, whatever you call it, real-time system, very much depending on internet. So there is no company, I will say, without accessibility to the internet. And so terms like cloud computing, yeah, becoming common or part of the business. Reason many companies have moved storing their data and information remotely rather than local, due to many reasons. The distribution of information and knowledge as well, not necessarily within the organization but remotely or in the cloud. That is the reason why you see terms like internet, intranet, extranet, cloud computing, what else? Remote assessing, uh, things like distributed network, information sharing, all are becoming common. Collaboration that we discussed in an earlier class is all common within the business today. The reason that is the direction that we are going to. Yeah. Uh, those days, company used to have their own data centers locally, and then they need to have a backup somewhere else, either remotely or at another site. But today they don't have to worry about all that. Reason, they can have the backup in their cloud, and there are many service providers are providing service as pay per use. For example, Amazon, yeah, Microsoft, and so on, Samsung, and so on. So you just need to pay. You just need to buy the storage, and you can you can save your data and information securely, but at the remote site where you don't have to worry about the security issues, you don't have to worry about the infrastructure and the cost of owning those facilities are getting cheaper and cheaper, as long as you go in a big volume, right? So the internet can greatly lower transaction and agency costs. So with the internet availability today, like what we discussed earlier, it has helped many companies in lowering their transaction processing costs as well as agency costs. Yeah, so that's the reason why more and more companies or organizations are moving into what we call cloud in running their business. Yeah, online business, in other words, or terms like e-business, e-commerce becoming very common nowadays. What you see in the next slide is some of the central organization factors to consider when planning a new system. Central organizational factors to consider when planning a new system. We did discuss about environment, the company itself, the organization itself, the structure. You need to take a look at the structure, whether it is a hierarchical base or based on specialization, routine, business processes. You need to look into all those areas before you decide on what kind of central organization factors that you're going to consider, yeah, in setting up of your business. For example, whether you want to set up a e-commerce, or you want to set up a online retail business, or you want to set up a physical business, for example hospital, with online system, yeah, being supported by online system. So you need to look into the organization structure, the specialization, where we have doctors, support staff, line peoples, and so on, and what are the routine jobs, non-routine jobs, business processes, and so on. Also need look into culture and politics. We talked about it earlier. Type of organization and style of leadership, main interest group affected by system, attitudes of end users, also very important, whether all your end users are willing to do things online, are they fully trained, how is their knowledge and their skills, which are the group will be interested, which are the group are not interested. Like we did discuss earlier, some of the senior staff or elderly people might be affected. Tasks, decision, and business processes, the system will assist. So in overall, you need to look into your entire organization, what will be their acceptance, their feedbacks, yeah, before you move into bringing in MIS or automating or introducing system to your organization. So these are some of the areas that you need to look into before making decision, before you transforming your business into so-called online or internet-based or web-based system. I hope that gives you some good ideas. What are the factors to look into? What are the areas to look into? Definitely, you can elaborate further, especially when you need to do your assignment, for example, or your final assignment, where if the questions are related to how IT organization will be affecting, or what are the factors to be considered in automating or in bringing in IT system or MI system into your business. So these are the points that you can consider. Yeah, these are some of the points that you can consider. Definitely, there are many other uh, factors or areas as well that you need to look into. What we're going to look at next is the slide using information system to achieve competitive advantage. Yeah, to achieve competitive advantage. Why do some firms become leaders within their industry, right? For example, we have many uh, e-commerce industry or players, but why some become leaders, some become followers, some fail, some run into a lot of difficulties or problems and so on. And also we're going to look at Michael Porter's competitive forces model. Yeah, Michael Porter's competitive forces model. Uh, Before we stop for today, and there is the rest of the slide. I really hope that you will go through yourself during the self-study period or the second session of the lectures. Um, and if you have any question, definitely you can come back to me, we can discuss it. Otherwise, please take some time to go through it before we meet again in the next sessions. So let's discuss, or let's take a look at what are the Michael Porter's competitive forces model. Is basically this model provides general view of a firm, its competitors and environment. Yeah, if you look at this Michael Porter's model, it gives you a general view of any organization or firm, who are the competitors and environment. And the five competitive forces that we can talk about or we can consider are such as: who are the traditional competitors for that particular industry or firm or businesses; new market entrants, who are the new players, yeah, similar to your business or nature of business; substitute product and services; customers and suppliers. So these are the five competitive forces under Michael Porter's that you need to consider. First is the competitors, traditional competitors, yeah, competitors. Next is the new market entrants. Are they new players? They're doing the same thing like what you're doing, yeah, right? New market entrants, or you are the only one. If you are the only one, well, it's a good news for you. But if there are many new market entrants, then you need to consider, yeah, different strategy might be substitute products and services, customers and suppliers. So in terms of models, this is how the model Porter's competitive forces models looks like, where you have all the factors that we need to consider: new market entrants, suppliers, customers, substitute product and services, plus the competitors. Those are the five Porter's competitive forces model that we need to consider to achieve or to be competitive, with other players. or even better. Okay, there's a one small case study here which I'm not going to go through with you. You can consider this, go through it during the discussion session in the second part of the lectures for today. And if there is any question or any methods to bring it up, please bring it up. We can discuss it together. Yeah. Traditional competitors, as continuous from the earlier discussion, all firms share market space with competitors. Yeah, so that is normal. Any business, any industry will have a what we call traditional competitors. So we need to study this, we need to take a look at this in order to come out with new product, new services, how to make your services more efficient and to bring down the cost, yeah, to make it even cheaper. Many factors are involved. I'm very sure all of you are business people, you are very familiar with this. uh, the goal is definitely to maximize the output with the lowest cost and with the time to market or within short period of time. Yeah, that is the goal, ultimate goal for any companies, or even to be better, to be competitive, or to be better from other competitors. I think that is a general rule, thumbs of rule. Next, new market entrants. Some industry have high barriers to entry, meaning there will be many factors that you need to consider. One may be due to the cost is very high. For example, semiconductor business, where the investment can be huge. So you don't see many competitors, you will see very less, but in order to come in, uh, the investment is definitely huge. Yeah, investment is huge. New companies have new equipment, younger workers, but little brand recognition. So that is another uh, problems. They have new equipment, maybe based on new technology. They are trained, but they are very much younger, meaning to say they have very less experience or exposure to the equipment, to the business, and so on. And also in terms of recognition, maybe they are new player, so uh, you definitely will have a better chance or opportunities over these new market entrants. But again, you need to look into the details, into the structures that we discussed earlier before making any decision. But it is always a good point to consider, to look who are the new market entrants into that business. Substitute product and services. Definitely you would like to uh, take a look at what are the substitute products and services available uh, similar to your industry or along your business, so that you are aware of what exactly is happening to the market. What is the demand like, pricing like, uh, and so on, right? So it's always a good idea, and it is a must that you need to take a look at what are the similar products available or similar services available in the market, that either they are competitors for you or they are not. But it is always a good idea how long they take to market their product, what are the features of the new product, what are the features of the services in terms of pricing, costing, and so on. That would be a good idea for you to sustain your business. Customers, definitely very important. Can customers easily switch to competitors' product? That is a good point to consider. and if not, why? Can they force businesses to compete on price alone in a transparent marketplace? Also need to be checked whether that is possible or not, right? So this is also another important factor to consider for your business. Supplier, market power of suppliers, when firm cannot raise prices as fast as suppliers. So this can be a big issue. So what is the market power of suppliers? Yeah. So when supplier raise the price, for example, and if the firm cannot raise, then we will run into problems, right? So that also need to be checked and monitor, what is happening between the supplier and the cost. So what you can see in your next slide is 4 generic strategies for dealing with competitive forces that enable by using IT. Directly or indirectly, we have discussed all these factors, but again, it is good to know what are the 4 generic strategies for dealing with competitive forces. Definitely, we want to keep the low cost leadership, and we need to look into how IT or MIS system can be used to achieve this low cost leadership. Product differentiation, definitely we don't want to have just one product or two products. We want to have various products with the help of MIS system, automation, especially how to differentiate and how to have various products so that it brings in more revenue, more sales for the company, for the firm. And also we want to make use of IT to focus on a market niche, right? So we when we do business, we don't have to focus everyone in the global, but we need to have our own market niche so that there is a demand for your product and services. And the other strategy, which is also very important, which can be used by using IT, is strengthen customer and supplier relationship, right? That is also important. As we know, customer and supplier is also part of the relationship, part of the business partners. So we need to make sure relationship with them are always kept in a good manner, right? So that is very important for the business. So these are the 4 generic strategies that you can consider and how you can make use of information technology or MIS system in achieving these areas or these factors. The details, like what I just explained to you, are written in the next couple of slides, which I'm not going to go through with you in detail. Please go through it by yourself. Focus on market niche, strengthen customers and suppliers, and then there is a one case studies here that you can go through it yourself during the self-study. And the other couple of slides are all about how the internet is giving impact or having impact on competitive advantage or to stay competitive in the business. Please read through it, and then also you can continue with business value chain model. There are some slides for you to understand that. The value web, how IS system can improve overall performance of business units to stay competitive. Network-based strategies, how network is important, how company can take advantage of the abilities to network with each other. Network economics, traditional and network economics at present. Virtual company strategy, business ecosystem, As we discussed very much earlier, you can see there is an ecosystem strategic model which is quite similar to uh, Porter's 5 forces model. Yeah, please go through it. How to sustain competitive advantage, performing strategic system analysis. All right. So those are the slides that you need to go through yourself during the second self-study. And if there is any question